Anupam, nice to speak with you again.
Yes, same here. I'm happy to be talking to you.
I really appreciate your podcast. I've been listening to it. I think it's a great idea, especially now in this year, in this time.
Yeah,
Um, and it's your first one. I mean, this is your
yeah,
first time podcasting. Do you think,
absolutely.
do you think that was this just the time?
No, I did not plan it because of the timing part of it. I've been toying with the idea since I shifted to New York 3 years back, 2.5 years back, that I wanted to do something like a podcast, which I had not done. I like to try out various things. I've done movies, I've done television, I have done stage. So I thought this podcast, I've hosted shows. So I was toying with the idea and I was happy that I got an opportunity. And then I always want to do something which is about goodness, which is about compassion, because I think the world can do with it. Well, there is so much of negativity around otherwise that I think my contribution, apart from entertaining people sometimes with my performances, but as a person, as an individual, it would be wonderful if I can contribute to their life. That's it. And I'm glad that it's you liked it. That's why it's called Anupam Cares. It's kind of playing with the words also. But yes, I was very sure from the beginning that this is the kind of podcast I want to have.
It's really interesting to me too, because, it's about your life off screen as well. And
Yeah.
you're very revealing in the podcast as well too. You tell personal anecdotes and stories, but also it has it has a feel of very much like, you're funny. You're revealing a little bit of yourself to the audience. You're giving a bit to yourself. And I don't think we know a lot of these stories. How did it feel in bringing those together?
So I come from a very poor family. Back when I was born in a family where there were 14 people in a small room, and means 14 when I say the grandparents, uncle, aunts, children. It was like a very Chekhov or a Gorky story, Maxim Gorky's family, etc., etc. So, but we were very happy. So once I asked my grandfather, I said, "Grandfather, we are very poor. Why are we happy?" And he gave me a very interesting answer. He said, when you are very poor, the cheapest luxury is happiness. So that made my life easy. And I looked at life from then onwards in a funny manner. I see life in a comic manner. That's why all my failures, disasters, whatever went wrong with me, I looked at it from a funny point of view, from a comic point of view. So they did not look so bad. And I also believe that it's only your disasters and your failure that you look back at, and because that gives you a sense of strength at whatever stage. So I saw my life from that point of view, and that's why I did my autobiographical play on stage about 14 years back, and I talked about whatever went wrong with me and I laughed at it. We have a guest. Wow, this is a planned entry.
Oh no, she rarely makes an appearance. Must have just
She,
wanted to see you.
yes, she likes me. How wonderful.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So basically, I think this is the situation. This is such a great sense of warmth to have your cat move around in the set, and it's amazing. My play is called Kuch Bhi Ho Sakta in Hindi. That means anything is possible, and this is that moment that anything is possible. That's what I have written a book about pandemic. I know I'm shifting topics, but we had a guest here,
Mhm.
uh, and this is what has happened, that we have become less pretentious and we have become less careful about how the world should be, how we should be. Now it is as simple as that, that while we are talking about my childhood and talking about why I look at my life in a comic manner, we have this. Now both of us could have pretended, oh, this is not the right, but it's become a norm of life. So I'm happy.
It has been a real adjustment period. Even, speaking to you on Zoom, I wouldn't have imagined doing that even a few months ago. This feels
Yeah,
like such a brand new thing to be doing.
right, right.
So, in terms of your podcast, it feels like what was really interesting to me was finding out that your first role was playing a 65-year-old man when you were a younger man. And,
Yes, 20,
do you find that this is sort of like full circle for you in a way?
So I was 28 and I got this brilliant role of a 65-year-old man about his only son is mugged in New York and how he deals with the death of his only son. And I was balding and I was thin, and that was the last thing that people in Indian film industry, especially in Bollywood, expected a hero to be like, an actor to be looking like. But my baldness helped me in getting that particular role. It was traumatic, it was difficult, but I was from theater and I knew that I will pull it off. But what I looked in that film to what I look now, I'm actually 65 now. There's a vast difference. I I I I don't look that old as I tried to look in that. That's what I feel. That's what I believe in. But again, anything is possible with me in my life. But I'm glad that I did that role because it made me survive for 36 years in this movie industry. That was a very powerful, and I needed to establish myself as an actor. I had been on the streets for looking for work for 3 years. I was a drama school gold medalist, but no work because I didn't have hair and I was very thin. So yes, it has come a full circle, and I unknowingly want to become like that man. That man was amazing. The character's name was B.V. Pradhan. He was compassionate. He was strong. He was he understood life, and he had a certain arrogance about him, which comes out of knowing yourself, which comes out because you're honest. Honesty gives you a certain amount of arrogance because you don't find that those many people or similar kind of people all over the world.
Mm.
Yeah, it has come a full circle. Thank you for asking me that question. I never thought of it.
You really reveal some personal things. You talk about depression, about insomnia, but you do it in a way that's quite, it's funny. I mean, it's a funny podcast. You have sounds, it's reassuring.
Yes.
How do you find the balance? How do you find the tone?
I think I had a fantastic team working for me, working with me rather, not for me. I think my executive producer, Mangesh, and Julian and Morgan were brilliant people. I think knowing them has been a very rich experience. And it is the contribution is theirs. This is how they weave the whole story. But frankly speaking, when I first time spoke into the microphone, um, even though I've been dubbing and I've been doing all kinds of things, to me it was very odd because I've sounded a little odd to myself. But my team told me that just speak to the people, and that's how it worked. And the kind of music they have added, the kind of sound they made me make this sound, they made me all wind sounds. And I used to, as a college student, I used to make this whole story about a uh, ghost mansion, and how the ghost come, how the door opens, and how the wind is blowing. I used to love doing that. So it was fun to do that. And I think that's what podcasts need to do. I think, I don't know, I've not heard many of them, but in today's time, you need to listen to the stories of people who don't take themselves seriously, people who look at life in a comic sense. And also, there are other stories which my producers have incorporated from all over the world, which are so wonderful stories. We need to believe in these stories of warmth, of togetherness, of somebody telling you, look, if something can happen to somebody like this, my perception of me is of that of a successful person. But then if I can go something like this, then it can happen to anybody. We'll deal with the life.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me too that you are very much inviting your listeners to respond, to give their own feedback. It's your stories, but it's also our stories. How much of
Yeah.
a sort of collaborative experience do you feel like it is in terms of the responses that you've already received for it?
So I'm people's person. I am interested in people. My richness does not depend how much do I have in terms of my cars or my houses or etc. I personally feel I'm always interested in people and their stories and their life and what makes them what they are. So it's easy for me to sort of connect with people. That's why when I was speaking to you, it was important to me to know how are you, how is your family, and it's not that somebody is interviewing somebody. So that's it. That's the end of it. I remember our conversation during Hotel Mumbai also. So when you are interested in people, you make a connection. That's what this world needs in today's time, a connection, human to human connection, because um, we had really exploited the other inhabitants of this planet. We had really, people had become so greedy that we needed a virus to give us a certain kind of a jolt. I know people have lost their family members, etc. But I think overall, at the end of it, we will have a better world, because we are now actually trying to connect with other human beings. We are trying to actually listen to the other person. We are actually trying to talk to people rather than talk at people. So the other people's stories are equally uh, connect worthy. It's equally enriching. That's what I feel.
How has your year been in terms of, you've had some very low lows this year, but at the same time, this podcast, your book, you're trying to heal, you're trying to make people feel better. How have you felt this year?
So I have always tried to live life rather than exist in life. Uh, my podcast is what I felt. My book, Your Best Days Today, is what I went through during this time. When I came from New York to Mumbai, I never experienced something like that in Mumbai. I had never seen the city is so deserted. I had never seen that people are not actually. And then my mother and my brother and my sister-in-law and my niece, they got COVID. I had to deal with it. I lost some wonderful, very dear friends of mine who were actors, non-actors, my yoga teacher's husband. And I realized I used to be very skeptical about talking about death. But then I actually wrote a chapter on death. So unless you go through an experience, how can you make a difference in other people's lives? How can I borrow experience? You have to go through it. It's churning. And in churning, sometimes good things come out, sometimes great things come out. But unless I feel it, I will not be able to make you feel it.
Mm.
So this year, and you're talking to an eternal optimist. I am an eternal optimist. For me, the ultimate definition of optimism is nothing is all wrong. Even a clock that has stopped running is correct twice a day. Because how low, when you go to the depths of degradation, the only place is to come up. And that's how you have to believe in hope. You have to believe in optimism. You have to believe in compassion. So I did go through lot of situations in life, but then I believe that you have to think, and you have to believe that on the other side of the world, on the other side of the situation, there will be positivity. A dark night always have a sunrise. It's obviously there. That's how these phrases must have come out, that under the end of the tunnel there is light. And I actually believe in that. That's my sum total of my life has always depended on that. Otherwise, you are talking to again to a poor boy from Shimla, from up north, right now in a city in India, and we are talking about optimism. We are talking about hope, because that's what we need to distribute and share with the world.
I've been following along since you first started it. And how does it feel to put these out into the world? How does it feel to have people respond to them? How does it feel for you?
It's amazing. It's a great feeling. I think from your reaction also, I'm so such a sense of warmth I have in my heart, that it is, the word is gratitude. The word is gratifying to listen to people saying that, oh, I connected with it. Or some people wrote to me directly, and my podcast people also sent me some response. It's a phenomenal response. It is not a response to a person, to an actor's act. It's a response to a human being's goodness, or stories of compassion and warmth. So if I'm making a difference in people's lives as an actor with my act, I'm very happy about that. I'm basically always wanted to be an actor. But if my stories, along with other people's stories, make a difference in somebody's life, that enriches me. That gives me a great sense of empowerment. That gives me a great sense of joy, that my story of any kind of hope made a difference in somebody's life. That's what is fantastic.
How do you suggest a person listens. You know, I've been playing them back to back. I've been listening to one and sort of ruminating on it. What do you feel like is the best way to respond?
I think it's. I never thought about it. It's ironical that even though the podcast is about sound, but my podcast will give you a sense of silence when you listen to it, because it's not wanting to sort of provoke you, it's wanting to soothe you. So whenever you are feeling little confused, or whenever you are in a rush, whenever you want to slow down, listen to it. um, Traveling or just going for a morning walk, or even this, somebody suggested to me that this should be this should be in schools.
Mhm.
This stories should be shared in the schools, because it's at the level of school that we need to tell them what hope is all about, what comedy is all about, from comedy from life. So I think people can be listening before sleeping.
Mhm.
These are great sleeping stories, because you need to wake up and you need to sleep thinking that this is a wonderful world at the end of it.
Mhm.
Everything in this world is not negative, disastrous, or sad. There is hope in the world. And
Mhm.
these are the stories about that. So when you wake up, you can listen to these stories. When you sleep, just before you sleep, you need to feel secure. You need to feel cocooned in this world. Just listen to these stories.
It was such a pleasure again speaking with you. I wish you
Yes.
the best, of course, and I
Thank
hope to do this again soon sometime.
Thank you. Thank you for being so warm to me. And thank you for saying wonderful things about my podcast. And stay safe and give my regards to your family. Take care.